Good morning from sunny El Salvador. We'll have the honor of hosting this beautiful panel of professionals. It is an immense pleasure to share with this selected group of professionals. And full of happiness, I can say that they are also my friends, so this will be fun. For today's conversation, we will be unveiling how does it look, the journey of a PMO leader. And to enjoy this knowledge, the protagonist of this exciting conversation are here with me. Let me make a quick introduction and then let them speak for themselves. We have here Maite Mata, head of the PMO for New Skin, Ruth Sarah Pierce, coach and pathfinder, Megan Johnson, lead consultant and analyte projects, Fernando Bartele, project director and an outstanding volunteer of the PMI in Latin America, Jose Quinteros, global PMO director at WebHelp. And before I start, I would like to thank you all for being part of this beautiful community, the PMO leader. And I would love if before starting, each one of you could introduce yourself and quickly tell us about your experience and how you are giving back to the community. And maybe we can start with you, Maite.
Thank you, Lucho, and thank you everyone for joining today. So I'm Maite. I'm originally from Spain. I'm living now in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm a PMO director and I'm an American ambassador for the PMO global community, and I am also a VP of programs for the PMI Northern Utah chapter. And I am super happy to be here with all of you.
Awesome. Okay, ladies first. Megan.
Hello from Canada, everyone. I am a project management consultant and I specialize actually in PMO design and implementation. So I work with a lot of different types of organizations and sizes of organizations who are wanting to build a PMO or who have a PMO, but it's not working and they need help to improve their PMO. So that's the expertise I'm bringing today, in addition to a long history in project management as a career. With expertise in healthcare and tech. So really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Fernando.
Hi, everyone. I am in the very south of Brazil in a city called Porto Alegre. Right now, I am a director of projects at the state government here. So I work with strategic and transversal projects. And in my experience, I have worked with projects for a while now, and with PMOs since 2010. So I have had experience of working in the private sector as a leader of PMO, as a designer of PMOs, as an executor, in the good sense, and running PMOs, not executing them. Not the best word I chose here, but and also as a consultant later, and trying to implement and help organizations in the private sector. And now, in the last 3.5 years, I have been working with projects in the public sector here in my region.
Awesome. Thank you, Fernando. And then the one and the only Jose Quinteros.
Thank you, Lucho. My name is Jose Quinteros, originally from El Salvador, currently based in Barcelona. And I've been in PMO related roles for a little bit more than 10 years now, leading some great teams in project implementations, corporate strategy, and some other topics in those lines in a regional and global level. So with expertise in the banking industry and the BPO industry now at Concentrix plus WebHelp. So yeah, love to play tennis and ride motorbikes. So super honored to share this panel with all these leaders and of course with all the audience.
Okay, for all uh, that wants to take a ride with Jose in the lovely Barcelona in his motorcycle. So just a reminder, we have this collaborative chat. Anytime you want, you can just shut any questions, and this is the magic of this collaborative exercise. Ruth, good to see you and welcome.
Okay, sorry, Luis. It's one of those weeks. Anyway, my
No
apologies.
worries. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, team, um, the main objective of this conversation is creating this knowledge sharing environment. So let's start from the beginning. What does it mean, a PMO journey for you? Maybe we can start ladies first. Maite.
Okay, for me, the PMO journey has two different approaches. First is my personal journey, how I started from a BA, grow from a project accidental project manager because I don't know how I finished that until I progressed my career into a PMO director. So that's one side of the PMO journey, but that's completely linked to the organizational PMOs that I support to build because each organization that I work with them or we try to build a PMO help me to grow and to learn while supporting their journey since they think, oh, we need a PMO. Why you need a PMO? And all these kind of conversations help my career grow and supported the company or organizational trying to make their own PMO journey. So it's both linked together. It's my professional growth and career development and how I help the companies to grow.
And
That's
it's
what it means
interesting.
for me.
Thank you. And it's interesting because this mixture of the customer journey from the practices perspective and the PMO journey from the leader perspective. So I don't know, Megan, will you like to add something to this
Yeah,
on this?
so I thought about this, a little bit around sort of when is the time that an organization is ready for a PMO? Because this is a tricky question, and I thought of kind of three things that I think matter. So one is that the organization has shifted its focus to value. Okay, so that for me is a really critical indicator that we're ready to build a PMO. The second one is that the organization has committed to what we call a projectized mindset. Okay, so we're using projects as our primary vehicle for executing value. And then the third thing is that we've achieved a certain level of maturity. Okay, so we're going to have a presence of project managers. Okay, we don't need a PMO when we only have one project manager or two project managers. We have some, process involved in managing projects, and we're doing that to a reasonable degree of success. Okay, so these are some indicators that we're ready for a PMO. Introducing a PMO too early and introducing a PMO too late can actually take that PMO journey. So finding this sweet spot is, I think, really important for organizations.
Awesome. Thank you. I love it. Focus, value, mindset. I like it. Fernando, I know you have many years of experience and the relationship, the close relationship that you have with the PMI, it's an additional value for you as a professional. So, uh, how does it look, this journey for you?
Nice. So I like this idea of thinking of a PMO journey as the PMO as the institution or the cell for excellence in projects, but also for the people who are involved in PMO work. So I agree totally with what Mighty and Megan said before. I would like to add that the word journey gives me the impression I like to think of an ongoing situation. So it's something that needs everyday attention. You just don't. Everything that Megan said is true. You need to understand when your company is ready for a PMO, and you have to keep assessing that day to day to understand if it's continuing to deliver value, if it's oriented in the right direction, if the company is actually providing all the support you need. And this is very important when you think, when is the company ready for a PMO? Because if the PMO is put there, but it's not oriented as one of the main points of importance for conducting the strategy, and it doesn't get the support it needs, it's very difficult for it to keep delivering value, right? Because you need a lot of effort to have all the assets together, to having the people, for having openness to talk and to discuss things. So it's very important to think as an ongoing process that never ends. And in that sense, I would like to mention also what is a PMO journey for people. So a person who wants to develop a career in PMO I read something a couple of days ago that was very interesting, and I think translates perfectly what I think about that, which is from David Altman. He wrote an article on the PMI blog, and it was registered by my good friend Helen Almeida. She put it on her LinkedIn, and I said, I'm going to use that sentence. So I'm going to now make sure I do what I promised to do. And saying who said that, I quote him saying, "You are a student of leadership, but you will never graduate from a school of leadership. Being a leader is a journey, not a destination." So I think this translates very well how I think of a journey as a career of a person working in project management or a PMO. It's not my sentence, but it could very well be.
Thank you, and I appreciate. And well, Megan mentioned it, timing, mindset. Um, this is the definition that I actually love a lot. A vehicle to achieve value for the company. But there's an additional concept, alignment. So, Jose, what does alignment bring to the PMO journey?
Well, alignment for me, Lucho, it's well, a core component of the PMO journey equation, let's say. It ensures that the PMO's activities and projects are closely linked not only to the organization's strategic direction, but most importantly to what your primary stakeholders expect from you and what they value at the end of the day. And that's why a successful PMO has, in a team perspective or in a personal perspective, has to be highly attuned to stakeholder expectations, really, and ensure that the services it provides are aligned with them. And yeah, building on the foundation of alignment with expectations, and several concepts fall into place as well, right? So strategy, value, resources, risk mitigation, among others. So ultimately, it's about being a valuable asset wherever and whenever it is needed from a PMO perspective. Doesn't matter if it's operative stuff, tactic, strategic level. The thing is to be useful for your organization, and that's how you excel in a PMO journey kind of thing.
Awesome. I enjoying this because there's a lot of experience in this conversation, and the word journey itself, it has this sense implicit, but I would like to call it maturity. So in that sense, Megan, what does it mean maturity on this, well, conjunction of terms, strategy, execution, journey, alignment, value? What does it mean maturity on this journey?
Yeah, so it's a loaded term, I think, and we use it often without really thinking
Yep.
about what it means. Even to, represent age, which is, a really bad connotation in the context of what we're talking about on a journey. So for me, I think PMI has done some really good research on this, and there was, some pretty phenomenal findings that have been published in literature that's now kind of old, but I think still maintains its relevance. My passion is around value delivery, so you'll hear me talk about value often today. And there are findings that project management maturity, when we think about repeatedly executing projects successfully, which is the whole goal of a PMO, actually really makes a huge difference. So organizations that are successful at repeatedly delivering projects successfully and have a degree of maturity in their project management practices as a result are about 15 to 20% more likely to be successful on new projects that they try because of that maturity. Okay, so that's that's a reason to have maturity. That's a reason to have a PMO. And then the second
Awesome.
one is one we talk about less, but is really important, which is around benefits management and realization. And this data is now, several years old, but I think it still stands, that we see about a 10% return on investment in projects when we are focused on benefits realization as an organization. And a PMO is a perfect place to focus on benefits realization and having an ownership of measuring benefits. And so I think those are the two things that for me are what I would define maturity as.
Awesome. Thank you. And it took my attention, the word relevance, and then we use value, and then we use benefit realization. We are talking about the reason. It sounds like mystic for me sometimes, because it's like having an entity that defines what is value. So, Fernando, how can we define value? Who define the value? It's a tricky question.
Uh,
It's a tricky question, but as you can
yes,
see,
you
it's so
you
I'm
had you
inspired.
had to shoot me with that one, right? it's it's a complicated answer to give. It's difficult to just say that uh, in one sentence, or we could just spend 2 hours here discussing this. But I think value is very connected to what the company, the organization, or the environment you are inserted in understands as where they want to go. So the whole thing is the strategic plan should translate value, right? So it doesn't always happen, but this is what the idea would be, that your company, your organization is mature enough, is conscious enough to understand the business, to understand the environment where the business is inserted, and then uh, um, translate this into the strategic plan. So then the execution of projects, or the planning of projects, and the whole project, the conjunction of projects can help deliver this desired state, and consequently the value. So I think the word value and the concept of value is very important when you talk about this PMO journey equation, in the sense that we have changed the perception or the idea of that triangle of what a project should achieve. We used to talk about cost and time and scope to deliver quality, which is something that I invented as a project manager, as a PMO, whatever, as being the objective of what I do. But the project is not the goal in itself. The project is the means to reach a goal, which is the value. So I think I saw there is a question in the Q&A talking about the XMO, and if we should just change the name of the PMOs. There it is, Rachel, thank you.
Mhm.
And I think I've been reading a lot about the XMO and trying to understand the concept. And when I heard Lucho talking about his PMO and his action as a PMO leader, I said, this is the XMO. So it's the idea of understanding that you have to adapt and be flexible to change what you do, because the project is the means. So it's how you do things to achieve the goal, which is generating value, which is what justifies you as a project manager or as a PMO. So I think this is in a very simplified way, this XMO idea is not that you have to change the name or you have to rebaptize yourself. It's not like that. It's the idea that you have to take different roles and act in different manners if that is what is required for you to deliver more value and help achieve the strategy of the company or the organization or whatever you are inserted in. So this is how I understand it, and that's why I think it's so fascinating and I like it so much.
Awesome. And now, because your fault, I have dozen of questions, and we are running out of time. So this is fun. Jose, you were laughing about the tricky question of what does it mean value. So be my guest. What does it mean value?
Value, well, value, it's everything in a PMO, to be honest, and you should be valuable in every step in your PMO journey, right? You need to provide what your stakeholders, and they must recognize, and that value needs to be perceived as well. So when you are in the step of making day-to-day tasks, do them well, right? If it's about more tactical or strategic work, excel in those areas. So in this way, I think that you can provide a unique kind of value. So doing this consistently will ultimately bring support for the top management, right? And that brings resources, opportunities, growth in your career, and as well in the PMO team, right? So yeah, I think that PMO journey, and it's all about continually showing how valuable it are yourself and your team in the organization at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate Jose. And well, Fernando mentioned it, this beautiful word, be conscious and uncertainty. And I think the worst enemy of our profession is uncertainty. So we get paid to control and reduce uncertainty. And a couple of minutes ago, Megan mentioned it, this beautiful definition, a vehicle to achieve value for the organization. I just only think about portfolio, which is an additional knowledge area in our profession. So, Meg, quick question. From the strategic planning process, meaning uh, defining the north, the strategic north, thinking about generating ideas, evaluate them, creating business case, and establish priorities, what comes first, a project or a portfolio?
So I thought a lot about this question. And the part that I think is really important is when we talk about how we translate strategy into action. Okay. And this is another art. Okay. So setting
Yep.
strategy is one art. Turning strategy into something we can actually take action on is a different art. And then actually delivering on the strategy is a third art, right? And project management is kind of sandwiched in those three arts. And so for me, portfolios do come first. And the reason that they come first is because they provide this clarity of like bucketing the strategy into like streams that we can use to execute. Okay. So I do think portfolios come first in this because it is the first tool that we have in that art of taking a strategy into something that we can take action on. Okay. So it's setting up those categories that we're going to then, take action in and streamline our projects and programs.
Yes. Thank you, Megan. And Ruth, you are an expert in managing portfolios. Same question. The egg or the chicken, they are mentioning that in the
Yes,
chat.
yeah, like I said about, is it the chicken or the egg? The older I get, the more often the answer is it depends.
Yep.
I think there are projects that spin up in isolation in response to something. And what I think Megan has a great point, that the portfolio is this sort of overall guiding framework that we're going to reference. But I was listening to all of the comments that everyone's been making, and the more you talk, the more everyone talks, the more complicated and more varied I think the PMO role is, and the portfolio. It's evolving all the time. And I think across the board, and Maita said it at the beginning about the individual, there's also the individual's consideration in all of this, that the PMO isn't a framework that exists in a vacuum. People come, people go, the demands from it change. And I've started to wonder, as I was listening to everybody, is there something beyond the portfolio, which is that basic framework of operation. I would say it's even different than strategy, that considers things like, what social impact do you want to have? You've got your stakeholders, you know, who want to create a certain value and get a certain benefit. Is it maybe going to be the PMO's role to say the cost of that benefit to the stakeholders is greater than it should be to the rest of the world? You know, where is that going to fit? So I think there may even be something before the portfolio is deciding, where does this organization want to exist in the larger society? Then how does the portfolio get created that meets those requirements, but also satisfies some of the needs, you know, the needs of the stakeholders? And then beyond that, how does the organization satisfy the individual employees' desires and needs, and also decide what are the priorities within that portfolio? What projects are we going to get to first? So I think there's more even beyond the portfolio in setting up that framework for decision making and choices.
Awesome. That was refreshing. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ruth. Maite, you are also an expert managing portfolios. So same question.
I was the one that put in the chat window which came first, the chicken or the egg. I think that we
Yep.
can be talking during hours, because what came first, the project idea or the portfolio that house all those ideas? I think that it depends. As both Megan said, Ruth said, but I think that at the end, our role is to create the right conditions to both coexist and do well. It means how, as a PMO leaders, we manage both. We put in, depending on the company that you are working, creating the right conditions for both to be together and achieve the strategy goals of the company.
Awesome. Awesome. I love this wide range answers because I love these open discussions, because for me, we need to remain nimble to constant change and be skeptics because we are always learning. But if we have a wide range answer, there there's a there's a real difference between a portfolio and a project. So what will be the difference between a portfolio and a project? And I'm not saying this conceptual answer. It's so based on this discussion, because the easy answer is go to the PM book. But enjoying this wide range conversation, Ruth, what what is the main difference between a portfolio and a project?
So to me, the portfolio is that kind of overall framework of what you're trying to accomplish, and the projects are the way you're breaking it down to make it manageable, you know, and how you're going to sort of how you're going to prioritize and how you're going to assign the work. So that the portfolio is the bigger picture. There was a time where we kind of framed portfolios as being, you know, a collection of projects that may or may not be sort of joined together in some way. But I do think there's a much stronger feeling now that the portfolio is the strategic view. You know, at the end of the day, we're trying to accomplish this strategy with the expectation that we will get a certain amount of benefit and value. And then underneath that, you're saying, okay, we can take this piece of that strategy and do it within a project. There'll be overlap with other projects and interaction with other projects, but this is a sort of defined subset of the portfolio that, you know, we can get moving on, that we can get aligned on and get started on.
Awesome. Thank you. Dear Megan, same question. Difference between the two of them.
I loved Ruth's answer because it was almost going to be the answer that I was giving. But as I was listening to Ruth talk, I also thought about something that I think is really important for our discussion today, which is I would describe the portfolio as the journey, right? So the portfolio helps us to see the journey ahead for that piece of the strategy that the portfolio is driving at. while the project is like little steps along the journey, right? So we take this step and we finish that, and then we take this next step and we finish that, and we take this other step. And so I thought that, like that nicely rounds out. Ruth gave all the details, so I don't need to explain that, but connecting us to this session, I think that's what I would say. The portfolio is the journey.
Well, can I build off actually what Megan has just said, because it reminded me of, I've been scribbling down notes as people have been talking, and one of the things I thought about the journey is there's missteps in the journey. We turn left when we should have turned right. And I think what you were saying, Megan, captures it beautifully, that you've got this portfolio view, and there are going to be times where we do spin up something, we start doing it and we go, okay, that's not serving the purpose we expected. It's not giving us the value we thought. And there's actually a better way of doing it. We can dial this one back and do this over here. So I do think that portfolio view captures that journey concept really well. I love that, Megan, because it also captures where it's the individual project that will go wrong. It's the individual project mainly where we're going to find we turned left and we should have turned right. If the whole portfolio turned left when we should have turned right, well, then we're talking about a different set of problems, I think. So
awesome.
yeah.
As you can see, I'm smiling a lot, so I really enjoying this. Thank you. Maite, you are an expert managing portfolios.
Yeah, I fully agree about what both of them are saying. And if you turn left or turn right, chiming in is like, for me, one of the key difference is how we manage and measure success. So we don't manage and measure success the same way in a project that when we are managing a portfolio. When you are managing a project, your success is on time, on budget, delivering quality.
Yeah.
When you are managing portfolios and you are close to the executive tables, to the strategy goals of the company, you need to measure success in a different way, because you are impacting directly on the organization strategy and on the organization goals. And if you are working in a public company like I am doing, it means that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So I'm really enjoying this conversation and how we are talking, because we can talk about how we manage resources, but at the end, going right, going left, going wrong in a project is how we measure success in a project or in a portfolio. That's the key difference for me.
Awesome. Well, I have a boring answer on this one. For me, it's a project delivers deliverables, and the portfolio delivers business outcomes. So both answers are a one range spectrum of possibilities, because we are expert on managing uncertainty. So that's the reason why we have a job. And I think we need a beer. It's 11 a.m. in the morning in El Salvador, but this conversation is awesome. Yes, Ruth, tell me.
Here
Well,
is 2:30, so you'll be fine, Lucho. It's 2:30 in Brazil.
But don't tell my
the sun
boss.
is over the yard arm somewhere, Lewis. So we can. I was just thinking back to the maturity conversation and where maturity lives as well. I think maturity lives in the portfolio. That is where you incorporate, if you've got a wise organization, you incorporate learnings from individual projects so that the journey becomes smoother, shorter, everything else. Projects themselves are not necessarily, other than inheriting the maturity that the organization already has, I'm not sure that projects themselves typically are where you develop maturity. It's where you again develop those sort of pieces that make you go, okay, in future, if we're going to do the whole thing better, this is what we've learned. So I think it relates back to that maturity that to me is applied experience. That's why you don't get maturity in a project, is you have the experience in the project, you apply it to the portfolio, and that's what makes things better in the future. Unless a project is very long, and I'm a big proponent of breaking things down into, a much more manageable piece, because I think projects that go on too long, they just drain everybody. Unless a project goes on pretty long, it's hard to have that applied experience and roll it back into that project.
Great. Thank you. Well, we have been discussing about frameworks, practices, some sexy concepts, but now I think the most important part is the leader. So, Jose, what essential characteristics, skills, and talents are required for a successful PMO leader?
For me, Lucho, definitely it's flexibility and adaptability. And I can throw in now that I was thinking during the conversation some courage as well.
Like
Both,
it.
like in both, in two ways, right? Like Ruth mentioned, correct when things go wrong, and as well courage when you have to succeed, right? So and that's why what right boldness make great stories and great journeys, right? At the end of the day. So in but zooming a little bit, zooming out a little bit, the required characteristics and skills of a PMO uh, leader depend on basically on the specific demands of your PMO and your stakeholders. So skills must, I think that must be tailored to meet the needs of the services required, right? And while there is a strong connection between your skills, your team skills, and your services that you offer, well, that's when the value it's generated and it will be significant, right? So this is, and I was thinking about this, and this is both the beauty and the challenge of this profession, that each PMO and PMO leader should possess a unique mix of skills tailored to the organization's needs, and that might change during the PMO journey, right? We've been there in which we have to learn some skills or to call someone that knows those skills, right? So, and just to finish the answer, I think that what's predominant in my experience is that it's more like a people-centric profession, heavily focused on soft skills and interpersonal abilities, more than hard skills as well. Obviously, you will need some hardcore knowledge management, process management, project management, but I think it's more like the ability to influence, to have the courage, to have the conflict management, right? The effective communication in this profession. There's a lot of negotiation going on, and to communicate your value at the end of the day.
Awesome, awesome. I will add courage as one of my favorite skills uh, in the in my inventory of skills as a PMO leader. Thank you. And I will love to make the same question to all. Maybe Fernando, you can go next. Um,
Sure.
skills. How does it look? This magician called PMO leader.
Well, so Jose already mentioned a lot of the ones I think are very important. So I'm not going to repeat everything he said, but I can sign under it. Just would like to add that, of course, you need also the ones we call the hard skills. So study, be up to date with new concepts, ideas, you know, see other people's experiences and try to learn from them and you know, implement and see if they work in your way, combining different ways of working, methodologies. You know, I think the more we are open to mixing things and to have more tools in the toolbox, the more prepared we are to navigate all this complexity and ambiguity that we live in these days. But I would like to also add to something that Jose said. Jose mentioned both adaptability and flexibility and courage. And I remember there's something that we talk about a lot, which is resilience. So I think resilience is really important, but it's also a challenge to keep that under control, because resilience without adaptability and flexibility becomes plain stubbornness. And this has no space in the modern world. So you being stubborn without reasons why being stubborn, just to say that, well, this is something that I believe in and I'm going to go this way. Doesn't matter if it's a hole and we are all going to fall in it. It's not very intelligent. So you need to be resilient, but with flexibility and adaptability to understand the context and see when you see that you took a right, like Ruth said, you took a right turn and you should have taken a left turn, that you understand that, you read that quickly, and you are open to change the path in time to, not lose more or win in the end. So I think this is something that is very important with the business acumen. Of course, understanding the business where you are, it's mandatory. If you don't understand where you're going, any way is going to be fine, or none of them.
Awesome. Awesome. Meg, I will love to hear you thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so I loved all these comments so far. A couple things stuck out as having not been mentioned yet that I think are important. So one is systems thinking skills. So I think that a PMO leader has a responsibility, not just in projects and these kinds of things, but also the processes in the organization that facilitate projects, portfolios, value delivery. And so really having that passion for connecting what and how, I think is a really important capability for a PMO leader. And then the other one is, it was mentioned a little bit, we tend to talk a lot about connecting people. Okay, we talk a lot about managing people as a PMO leader, but it's not actually really just about managing people. It's about managing people and ideas and connecting people and ideas, right? Choosing the right people who are going to get motivated behind an idea, helping those people to understand the idea, to really, see what the vision is for the idea, what the roadmap is, what the journey ahead looks like. And I think that that's a little bit different than just being good with people or being good at managing people. And I think that that's the ability that I really see differentiating a PMO leader from any other sort of project professional.
Awesome. Thank you. We just have a couple of minutes more, but Maite and Ruth, really quick, same question.
So I'll start, and I'm not going to talk about some skills because I had the opportunity to work with Ruth Pierce, and I am going to put in the chat window her last book, the Be Hopeful, Strong, Be Brave. All of those skills we need to be a good PMO leader. So I just put it in the chat window. There is something that Fernando mentioned that I want to chime in: organizational knowledge. It means the other day it popped up in my LinkedIn profile looking for a PMO director that delivers structure priorities in less than 3 months before the end of the year. And I was scared. It means if I don't understand the culture, if I don't understand the structure, if I don't understand the goals of the company, how I am going to build a PMO? So as a good PMO leader, or what makes me strong when I go to a company to build a PMO, it's to understand the company and having this organizational knowledge. Because all of us talk a lot about skills and talents to effectively drive that, but we need to have this knowledge too.
Awesome. Thank you, Maite. And Ruth, for the big finale.
I don't know. How about that as a big finale?
Well, that's a big answer. Socrates would be very proud about us.
I think it's hard to pinpoint the specific skills for a PMO leader as opposed to any other organizational leader. And I think throughout what we've been talking about is adaptability. We've been talking about journeys. I think leaders need to be adaptable and curious. And you said, Luis, you said courageous, because that topic came up. Good leaders are open and curious and adaptable and humble. They think their people know as much, if not more, than they do. And so they can use their curiosity to integrate other people's wisdom into how things get done.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I need a beer, but first, I would like to make a quick closure on our conversation based on all your contributions. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. Well, for me, the PMO journey is a quest. It's a family quest embedded in a circle of love and trust. You need this warrior spirit on a daily basis. Sometimes you will win. Sometimes you will win, but with a little bit of bittersweet taste. But at the end of the day, it's a family. So thank you all. Thank you, the PMO leader, for this fantastic opportunity of sharing knowledge and giving back to the community. And please enjoy the rest of the journey because this will be just fantastic.
Thank you, Lucho, and all of the panelists. What an amazing discussion, right? I loved everybody's contributions and all of your perspectives. This is a perfect reflection of our community. People from around the world, their own experiences, their own perspectives, and sharing that with one another so that we all benefit. So what a fantastic panel discussion. Thank you all. A reminder to everybody, we're going to have a 15-minute break or so now. So please head out to the booths. Again, all of this is possible because of Keyden, Planisware, and Asana have supported the community, and it's free for everybody because of their generous support. So please go say thank you to them, show them some love, and then also do some networking, right? We have the networking lounge. Please go out there, sit at one of the tables, and interact with your fellow attendees. We'll be back in 15 minutes with the next session. Closing in, I think we've now passed 18 hours worth of live consecutive content, headed towards the 20-hour finish line coming up in a little bit. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you all soon.
Good to see you all.